This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, and today we're going to talk about how to get products that your customers can't get enough of, which means they're going to buy lots of them.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, and welcome to today's episode. Before I even jump in, I just want to give you a heads up. I'm recording this episode a little bit late. If you have been following me on social media, and to be fair, I don't really hang out on Instagram, I hang out on Facebook. So if you've been following me on Facebook, you will have seen that on Tuesday, the area that I live in Sydney was hit by a Now, it didn't last very long, just a couple of minutes. I managed to capture about 20 seconds of it on video, but it was like a tornado went through. And the result was a lot of damage. Now, thankfully, our house is fine. We only had a couple of tree branches down. Not so much our neighbours, though. We had a couple of neighbours who had trees down on their houses and roofs smashed and things like that. So the last couple of days, let me just back up a bit. For those of you who don't know, in my previous life, I was an arborist. Now that was over a decade ago, but I still love grabbing a chainsaw when I need it. So I've spent the last couple of days just helping my neighbours to clear out the entry to their garages and to get trees out of swimming pools and basically just helping out in the community. Now, this is not about me though. The whole point I wanted to mention this is this podcast is coming out to you late because I haven't been able to record it. We haven't necessarily had power. We've had intermittent power. We don't have any internet. So I'll be recording this late because I've been helping out the neighborhood and we haven't had any power and my microphone needs power, but it's coming out late and there's highly likely that there's going to be some background noise as I record it, simply because the people next door, the trees are getting cut off their roof and there are trees down everywhere. So there are chippers going, there are chainsaws going, there's machinery going, everything is going. And it's garbage day. So inevitably, the garbage truck will come along as well. So I apologize first up for any background noise that you might hear during this episode. And I also apologize that it's coming out to you a little bit late. But stay tuned because this is a really good episode and really quite pertinent for the fact that we're in the holiday season and you're probably stocking up on more products than you normally would. So today I want to go through a few different areas that I cover when I'm working with my one-on-one clients to find the perfect products for their store. How do you choose the products that your customers can't get enough of? Because you guys can't afford to be holding inventory for too long. Really, inventory should be moving out within 90 days in your store, preferably 45. And that's how we do our turnover when I work with my clients is how much do you need for the next 45 days? That gives you 30 days worth of buffer. 30 days worth of stock because usually you're on a 30-day account. So 30 days worth of stock along with 2-week buffer. So if you have extra orders or it's peak season, you have that time, you have the product there to get your order into your supplier. So you know that holding on to stock costs you money, right? Every day that stock is sitting on your shelf is what they call an opportunity cost. So while it's sitting on your shelf, it's not putting money in the bank and it's not allowing you to buy more stock. So as we move stock, and even if you move it at less than what less than what you paid for it, if its time is up, if the time has come for you to move it on, you are actually better off getting something for it than just letting it sit on your shelf. Because, and I'll just give you a quick example. Say you buy a mouse. I'm looking on my desk. There's a mouse here. Say you buy a mouse for a computer and you pay $5 for it and you sell it for $10. But nobody likes the color. So it's sitting on your shelf and nobody's buying it. And you think, I'll mark it down to $8. Nobody buys it. I'll mark it down to $7. Nobody buys it. I'll mark it down to $6. Nobody buys it. And you think, well, I'm not marking it down to $5 because that's what I paid for it. But in actual fact, I don't care if you only get $1 for it, because if you get $1 for it, yes, you've made a loss, but you can then use that $1 to go and buy or go put towards a product that will sell and make you money. But the longer that mouse that nobody likes sits on your shelf, it's tying up your cash flow. And while it's tying up your cash flow, you can't spend that money on products that will sell and that will turn over and that will allow you to make a profit. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense, because that's kind of like the first fundamental in business. So that one is really important to get your head around. Now, I want to jump in just quickly. You can probably hear those chippers have just started up in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud. So I wanted to start out quickly about how to decide whether a product is worthy of coming into your store. And I won't spend too much time on this because I don't want to overload you with information, but I will put a download together for you. And let's call it selinaknight.com/ let me just have a think on the fly. selinaknight.com/ range, as in product range. Okay, let me just write that down so that I can tell Mooks that he needs to create a page for you with that URL so that you can download all of this. Okay, so some things to think about when you take on a product or a brand. And the first one is, does it actually align with yours? And I know this sounds really silly because you probably think, well, yeah, if I'm considering it, of course it aligns with my product range. But let me just give you an example from when we had our store. So we sold eco products, we sold sustainable products, we sold wooden toys, we sold recyclable products. So when people would come to us with a plastic toy, for example, it didn't fit with our ethos. Now, maybe if that toy had been made from recycled plastic, recycled milk bottles or something like that, we will have considered it. But the product in and of itself had to align with the whole vision of our store. So I want you to think about that really importantly, because a couple of things are coming to my mind. And the first one is one of my gorgeous Scale Your Store alumni, Stephanie. When she went through the course, one of the big aha moments that she had was that she was buying product for her customers, but she didn't want those customers, if that makes sense. So she was attracting the discount customers, but she didn't want that. That's not how her store started. And somewhere along the line, it kind of fell into this discounting model. So she was buying cheaper and cheaper products because people were bargaining for them. But in actual fact, that wasn't what she wanted for her store. So when she was able to see that actually the whole brand vision had changed, she was able to switch it back, get rid of the discounted products, get rid of the bargain hunters, and put her store back into profit. So it's easy to get waylaid by customer suggestions, I guess, customer requests. But at the end of the day, the way that you curate your range, and that's probably the way that you need to think about it. I am curating a range of products for my customers. Does this range fit? Does this product fit? When I put it next to everything else, is a customer going to be like, wow, that's gorgeous, or wow, that's beautiful, or that's exactly what I expected to be here? Or are they going to have like a subconscious, oh, whoa, I wasn't expecting to see that here? And you'll know what I'm talking about. You will have been into those stores and you just think, huh? What? I don't understand what that is doing here. So the first thing to think about is whether you have existing products that are very, very similar. And before you think, oh, I already have one of those, I want you to just stop. Wait a minute. This one is really important. I fell into this trap myself, which was I have shopped around, I've curated the best of the best for you, but I am not my customer. And so we would only have one or two of a specific range. And it was easy for me to go somewhere else and think, oh my goodness, there are 5 of these things exactly the same, ranging from $10 up to $50. Which one do I choose? It's too confusing. And so I thought that the easiest thing for my customer was just choose the top 2 and just have 2 or 3, sometimes 3, of the best products. But here's the thing. You are not your customer. So customers like choice, but not too much choice. So it's really important to think about how a product sells. So if you have a product that already sells well, then maybe you'll have 5 similar choices on a varying price point. So everything from $8 or $10 right up to the $50 version. And I'm sitting here thinking about candles. You know, you can go to a place like Kmart and you can get a candle for $3. And that same sized candle from a beautiful store might be $50. But the products are different, like the ingredients are different. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it, but the origin of the products, no, like the supply chain of the products, there's a word for this and I can't think of it right now. But basically how sustainable the ingredients are. I'm going to go with supply chain, but that's not it. So, from point to point, the product may be more sustainable, it has less miles, it's organic, all those kinds of things can make a difference. And some customers will be prepared to pay for it. So it's not your job to just pick the middle of the range or the cheapest or the most expensive. Sometimes adding to a range, like adding to a specific product group, will actually help you sell more. And I was under the impression when I did this that I would actually sell more if I only had a couple of choices. But sometimes the result was people not buying anything because it wasn't the thing that they were looking for. So I didn't have the $50 organic version because I thought my customers were very middle of the road and they were prepared to pay $30 for this thing. And I also didn't sell the $8 version because I didn't want cheap and tacky. Now, I probably could have foregone the $8 version because that's not what my clients were looking for. But in hindsight, it's easy to see that if I'd had that more expensive version, the $50 version, that I probably would have sold more. And here's the thing. There's a funny thing in retail called price anchoring. And price anchoring is where we immediately assign a value to something. So you think about this. If you walk into a beautiful store and a giftware store, and there's a beautiful display of $50 candles the minute that you walk in, and they smell gorgeous, they're burning in the shop, not the burning shop down, they're burning in the shop, so the shop smells amazing, and you walk in and you're like, oh, I love these candles. I'm sitting here with my eyes closed and my head nodding back and forwards. I can literally just picture this, and I've actually got one of my old clients' shops in my head. As you walk in, she used to have these beautiful candle displays. But maybe I can't afford a $50 candle, or maybe I'm just too cheap to buy a $50 candle. So price anchoring is where we assign a value to something. And it should usually be the most expensive thing first, because when we see the $30 candle next to it, maybe it's a smaller version, or maybe it's a different brand, but it has a lot of the same characteristics. The $30 version, immediately, I place more value on it because it's in my price range and it has all the things I'm looking for and it still smells just as good, but maybe it's a little bit smaller. But I'm prepared to pay $30 for it. Even if you broke it down, it would be slightly more expensive. I'm prepared to pay $30 for it because it has the value assigned to it. Now, some people will still buy the $50 candle, but most people will probably buy the $30 candle. And another great way to think of this is, when you go to a website, and there's proven stats, but I'm not going to bore you with them. When you go to a website and there's like 3 versions, there's like the light version and then the most popular version, and it's kind of in the middle and it's popped out. And then you have the premium version. They don't expect you to buy the premium version. 9.9 times out of 10, the premium version is not what they're there to sell. What they're there to sell is volume. And they're there to sell volume of that middle of the range product, which is why it's popped out a little bit and it's a little bit bigger and it usually has most popular written across the top. That is price anchoring. And big box stores do it all the time in retail. So I want you to think about price anchoring in your business. Having a $200 cashmere scarf next to a $120 scarf. You may well sell more of the $120 scarves because on its own, the $120 scarf, when I have nothing to anchor that value against, it's too expensive. Does that make sense? You don't have any other point of reference. So when you have the $200 reference, all of a sudden, $120 seems affordable. It's the same with sunglasses. You'll always see an expensive range of sunglasses and there might only be 5 or 6, but then in that next range down, there's going to be 20. And then there'll just be a couple of the cheaper ones. This is price anchoring at its best. So there's a good chance that you already know what it is that your customer likes to buy. What I'm trying to give you in this little reference is a strategy that you can use to make them buy more, or to make them step over the line and actually purchase. Because sometimes they won't purchase at all because they don't have that value attached to the product. So it is your job as the retailer to do this. Now, if we're in an e-commerce store, you can still do this. You can choose to list your products alphabetically. You can choose to list your products by popularity, or you can choose to manually sort through and list your products. Now, I know this sounds, if you've got a lot of SKUs, this may sound like it's a little bit too much hard work, but even if you just picked out your top 20 ranges and spent a little bit of time doing this and actually placed, say, 3 products together, a $20 version, a $50 version, and a $75 version, you'll probably sell more of the $50 version. But if you place those side by side manually, which you can usually do with most e-commerce platforms, immediately customers have a point of reference. Now, the other thing that you can do is implement something like a product landing page. Now, I love Zipify for this if you've got Shopify, but product landing pages are the bomb. And if you are ready to step up and move your business up a notch, you really need to investigate product landing pages for whatever platform that you're on. They didn't have this back when I had an e-commerce store. I used to literally code these into my website. I didn't know they were a thing. They just seemed like a basic way for me to get people to shop. So I would put 3 versions of something onto what is now called a product landing page, and then people would have to click through to buy it. These days, software is so much more sophisticated. And if you have something like Shopify, Zipify has templates in there that will just populate the products and you put the text in. Think of it almost like a product review page, which you can do. But if you can highlight the differences between each product and who they're better for, even if it is just subconsciously by putting a group of things together when people scroll on a website, you are going to sell more. So if you can do this and you do it well and you spend a bit of time, the products that you're choosing, they're important, but the way that you're selling them is even more important. Now, I haven't written this down in my notes to talk about, but let's just quickly jump onto the subject of photos. And that is, you have to have good photos if you are an e-commerce store. Now, if your suppliers aren't giving them to you, you've got a couple of choices. 1, you go somewhere else and you choose something different. Or 2, you have to spend a little bit of money to get a good product shot. And I say this because all too often, and I see this happening over and over again, customers are spending money on Facebook ads and they're spending oodles of time on social media driving people to their website. And they think they need to spend more time and more money on marketing. But in actual fact, 9.9 times out of 10, they just need to spend more time on selling. So if you have a low conversion rate, or if you have a low average order value, don't be spending all your money on Facebook ads. Don't be spending all this effort on driving traffic to your website. Actually, step back and look at what the problem is. Your website just doesn't cut the mustard. You need better product shots. People buy with their eyes. You need better product descriptions. You need a better payment gateway, a better checkout page. Go through the customer journey and see what it looks like. That's a little bit of an extra, a little bit of a bonus tip for you guys, but product photos count. So you need to really, really think about how you're going to market a product when you bring it into your business, especially if you're an e-commerce brand. So the next thing I want you to think about when it comes to choosing products that your customers can't get enough of is to go and have a look at what your customers can't get enough of. This sounds so basic, right? But I would say most retailers don't do it. So this is going to involve a little bit of time, but it's using free tools like Google Trends to see what is trending. Looking at websites, let's just say you're in fashion, looking at the Vogue website, or if you're in homewares, looking at the interiors websites and seeing what are they promoting? What are they advertising? What are people clicking on? What is trending on Pinterest? Now, we've talked about Pinterest before. This is just a little side note. And I have a bath every night. I'm a bath person, not a shower person. And when I'm in the bath, I don't really like to think. So I quite often just scan through Pinterest. And if you've been listening for a while, you know we've been doing renovations. We've renovated 2 bathrooms and a laundry, and we're just about to spruce up our back deck area. And I've spent a lot of time on Pinterest, but here's what I found. Either people aren't posting much on Pinterest, or it's the same stuff over and over again that people are clicking on, that people are pinning. Probably the latter. I'm not a Pinterest expert. And I'll be on there and I'll be searching bathroom ideas. And it's the same things that are popping up in my feed over and over again. Now, there's a pretty good chance the reason for that is because other people are pinning it. Other people are clicking on it. People are liking it. People are sharing it. So spending a little bit of time and research, if you're thinking about doing a big indent order for a brand, do a little bit of research. Are people actually clicking on this kind of product? Are they pinning it? Is it trending? Is it on Google Trends? Is it in Facebook Audience Insights? Is it in the Facebook Ads library? What can you see that people are utilizing? What channels are people utilizing to market these products? And this is especially relevant now in the holiday season because you'll be getting a lot of products in that you wouldn't normally stock. And if you do not sell them in this holiday rush, you're going to have to discount them to get rid of them in January, after the Christmas rush. So thinking about this, and maybe you've already done your orders, but I want you to think about this for top-up orders. And if you find that you run out of something and you can't get any more of it and you think, oh, I'll just get that version because let's go back to the candles. So we had the organic candles, but now the supply is out of stock. So you get another $50 candle, but it's not organic. It doesn't have that point of origin supply chain thing that I was talking about. And so it doesn't sell because that's not what the $50 customer wanted. So be really, really careful about topping up stock with, let's call it inferior products. Just not of the same caliber and not of the same value. That's the right word. Not of the same value to your customers that the original product was. Does this make sense? Hopefully this makes sense. Because if the product is not as good, or if customers don't know about it, like perhaps here in Australia we have glasshouse candles and they're super expensive. And so if you get a brand that is the same price point but that nobody's ever heard of, maybe it still does have all the same characteristics, but nobody's heard of it. And remember, people pay for the name. People pay to be associated with a brand. Just like people pay $120 for a Lululemon yoga mat, the exact same yoga mat unbranded might sell for $20, but people buy into the brand. They want to be part of it. So making sure that if you bring a product in at a specific price point, customers either are prepared to pay, they're prepared to invest, or they know about the brand, the brand already has buy-in. And if it doesn't, how is that going to affect how you market the product? How is it going to affect where you put it on your website, where you put it in store, how your staff are going to sell the product in store, or what kind of product description are you going to write? And then the last thing I want you to think about, especially when we're talking products in the holiday seasons or in peak season, maybe it's a seasonal thing for you, is profit versus saleability. Now, I am all for the most profit you can. Profit is what pays the bills, profit is what puts the money in the bank account, and profit is what keeps you in business. However, in some circumstances, it may be worth taking a smaller profit margin for the volume. And this just kind of segues from the last thing I was talking about, is that some brand name products will offer less profit margin for you. But if you know that that product has the ability to drive customers into your store, or that customer has the ability to drive traffic to your website, but the profit margins are smaller, then it is still something that you need to think about. And that's because those products that bring customers in, those products that have customer buy-in, give your store credibility. So if customers are searching for, I'm just thinking, I don't know why this came to mind, but a couple of years ago, actually it was probably more than a couple of years ago, the big thing in kids' toys was kinetic sand. And I'm pretty sure it was the same stuff that we had as kids called magic sand, but that's okay. Everything that's old is new again. But it was this sand that was kind of sandy but glued together and it clumped and you could build sandcastles. Anyway, go and Google it. And everybody wanted it. And I remember it was a while ago because we couldn't get it into our store, but everybody was sold out. And then the inferior range came in, the no-name brand came in, and we chose not to stock it because we knew that people were searching for this brand, this kinetic sand brand. And so we knew that if we got it, people would come in and then they hopefully would buy other things as well. So you have to weigh up brand visibility and brand profitability versus the traffic generation that you can get. And this happens a lot with loss-leading products. So sometimes you go to a store and you're like, how are they selling it for that price when I can't even buy it wholesale for that price? Now, that is a whole different, I'm pretty sure I've done a podcast about this. Let's not go into the whys and the wherefores of how they can afford to do it. The fact is what they're banking on is that when you come into the store, you're not just going to buy that product. You're going to buy more as well. And that is where they make their money. So I want you to think about this when you're thinking about how you're going to lay out the front page of your website, how you're going to lay out the products in each category. Or if you've got a physical store, how are you going to lay out your store displays? What's going to be in the window? What's going to be as you first walk in the door? What's going to be outside? Because quite often we put sales stock outside. Is that going to work for you in the holiday season? Maybe for the rest of the year it does. But maybe for the holiday season, you're better off having a table of gifts under $20 or gifts under $50 or gifts under $100, whatever works for your store. So getting customers to buy is as much as about the products that you have, but also about the psychology that you use to sell the products and to market the products, but mostly to sell the products. Because if you can get people to your store or to your website, more than half the battle is won. Because now they know about you. Now you can retarget them. Now you can speak to them in store. But if they don't know that you exist, then you have nothing. You have no customers. So getting them there is the first part of the equation. The second part is to actually sell to them. And that quite often is the part where a lot of businesses fall down, either in store or on their website. This is the part, the conversion part, that most people have an issue with. So if you are getting people in store, if you are getting people to your website, but you have a conversion rate online of less than 3%, or you have a conversion rate in store of less than 50%, then you need to be looking at your selling. And if this is sort of you going, oh, maybe that's my issue, I want you to head over to selinaknight.com/quiz and go and do the quiz. Because this quiz that I've created, it's a data-driven research tool, will help you uncover the area that you need to focus on in order to grow your business. So the weakest link, we call it the weakest link. It's going to tell you the weakest link of your business. And then I'll even give you a blueprint that gives you some tips on how you can address that weakest link in your business. Okay, I think that is the perfect time for me to finish up because I'm looking out the window and I can just see that a chipper truck has turned up next door and it is going to start up any minute, which means a whole bunch of noise. But I feel good that I've walked away from today with something productive. However, I do still need to drive about 15 minutes up the road to get free Wi-Fi at the supermarket to upload this. But I feel like I've gotten something out there today and hopefully the noise in the background wasn't too much. And you've learned something about how you can really streamline your product range and have products that not only drive customers to your store and give you profit, but also that customers love. So that you can feel like you have curated the perfect range of products that people can't stop buying. So just a quick recap, I haven't written these notes down. I'm literally doing this on the fly. We talked about value. We talked about price anchoring. We talked about profit margins. We talked about brand alignment and brand ethos. We talked about value propositions. We talked about a lot of things. And even though it's breaking every marketing rule in the business, giving you 2 calls to action, if you haven't already done the quiz, selinaknight.com/quiz, where you can unlock the weakest link in your business. And the other one was selinaknight.com/range, where I'm going to pop up this little cheat sheet about how to choose the right products for your store. Okay, you guys have a fantastic day. I am off to jump in the car and head up to find some Wi-Fi so we can get this episode off to you. And next week, I'm going to be talking to you. We're going to flip this and we're going to talk about how to get your products into a store. So if you guys are product creators or if you are a retail brand that also does wholesale, that was something that we did. Great way to increase your margins and increase your brand awareness. If that is you, you are going to love next week's episode. I will see you then. Until then, stay safe and have a great week. Cash in on the holiday season, and I'll see you back here next week. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selinaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.